Leon Brown doesn't do social media anymore. They made that clear when they stepped back from the public eye, retreating into privacy while their father continued parading his version of reality across television screens nationwide. But something pushed them past the breaking point. Something so infuriating, so blatantly false that silence became impossible. The post dropped like a bomb. Taking a break from my social media hiatus to say one thing, Leon wrote, and anyone familiar with the Brown family drama knew immediately that whatever came next would be nuclear. There is a ridiculous video of my father circulating where he says he reaches out to his children. What followed was pure, unfiltered rage. Let me be so clear, Leon continued, using language that left zero room for misinterpretation. I have not heard from that man since my brother killed himself. The words hit like a freight train. Since Garrison's death, since the tragedy that shattered what remained of the Brown family into irreparable pieces, Kody Brown, the man who cries on camera about his fractured relationships, hasn't contacted one of his children since their sibling died. But Leon wasn't finished. They had more truth to deliver, and they were going to make sure everyone heard it. Kody blatantly blew me off at Garrison's funeral. Imagine that scene. Your brother's funeral, the worst day of your life, and your father, the man who helped bring you into this world, ignores you, doesn't approach you, doesn't offer comfort, doesn't acknowledge your existence while you're drowning in grief. Leon's conclusion was devastating in its simplicity. He is a liar. He is a joke of a father, that's all. A joke of a father. Not a bad father. Not a distant father. A joke. Someone so fundamentally failing at the most basic requirements of parenthood that they've become laughable, pathetic, worthy of contempt rather than respect. The Instagram post exploded across social media within hours. Fans who'd watched Kody's behavior for years finally had confirmation from one of his own children. The comments poured in by the thousands. Support for Leon. Outrage at Kody. Demands for answers. David and Allison, the reality television commentators who've dissected every Brown family move, received the post from approximately 15 different people. Everyone wanted to talk about it. Everyone needed to process what Leon had just exposed to the world. This wasn't speculation anymore. This wasn't fans reading between the lines or making assumptions based on edited footage. This was a direct statement from someone who lived through Kody Brown's failures firsthand. Someone who watched their father choose his ego over his children. Someone who buried their brother while their father turned away. Leon had been silent for so long, but when they finally spoke, they made sure the world understood exactly who Kody Brown really is. And the truth was uglier than anyone imagined. Funerals are supposed to bring families together, even families torn apart by years of conflict, even relationships destroyed by neglect and betrayal. Somehow people manage to put aside their differences when death forces everyone into the same room. It's an unspoken rule of human decency. You show up. You acknowledge each other's pain. You recognize that grief supersedes everything else. Kody Brown couldn't even manage that. Garrison's funeral should have been the moment, the wake-up call. The tragedy so profound that it shattered whatever pride or stubbornness kept Kody from his children. When you lose a child, when you're burying your own son, every petty disagreement becomes meaningless. Every argument about respect or boundaries or who said what evaporates in the face of that kind of loss. But according to Leon, Kody looked right through them, blatantly blew them off in Leon's exact words. Not a subtle avoidance, not an awkward failure to connect in a crowded room, a deliberate, obvious dismissal of his own child at their brother's funeral. Try to imagine what that feels like. You're already destroyed. Your brother is gone. The sibling you grew up with, shared a childhood with, loved despite all the family chaos surrounding you both. And your father, who should be offering comfort, who should be pulling you close and sharing that impossible grief, acts like you don't exist. David and Allison broke down this moment in their reaction video, and even they struggled to find words. "It breaks my heart," Allison said quietly. David added that hearing about children being completely ignored, knowing some kids got minimal contact while others got nothing at all, made the reality of the situation impossible to dismiss as entertainment anymore. Because that's what Leon's statement accomplished. It stripped away the television show veneer. It exposed the real human cost of Kody's choices. This isn't a storyline. This isn't drama manufactured for ratings. This is a parent failing so catastrophically that their child publicly calls them a joke. The funeral snub reveals something darker than simple neglect. It shows active avoidance. Kody had to make a choice in that moment. He had to decide whether to approach Leon, whether to acknowledge them, whether to be a father when it mattered most. And he chose to turn away. Some people suggested maybe Kody didn't see Leon. Maybe it was crowded. Maybe there's an explanation that makes this less awful. But Leon's language leaves no room for charitable charitable interpretation. Blatantly blew me off means it was obvious, unmistakable, intentional. That funeral became a defining moment, not just for Leon's relationship with Cody, but for how the world understands who Kody Brown truly is. When your own child buries their sibling and you can't even look them in the eye, you've crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. And Leon made sure everyone knows exactly what their father did. Kody Brown sat on that couch, looked directly into the camera, and said the words with complete conviction. "I've reached out to every one of my children, and multiple times, every one." It's the kind of absolute statement that should make anyone's lie detector start screaming. David caught it immediately during his reaction. "This is when we know Kody Brown is lying," he explained. "Whenever Kody Brown is lying, he's using absolutes. Or we could say whenever he uses an absolute, we know that he is lying. Every time, always, never, 110%. These are Kody's favorite words when he's rewriting history, when he's constructing a version of reality, where he's the devoted father and everyone else is the problem, where he gave everything and received nothing in return. The camera doesn't blink, the footage doesn't forget, and neither do his children. "I was there, I was always there, and I gave 110% every time," Kody insisted, his voice rising with defensive energy. They immediately cut to clips of Kody sleeping on couches while his kids played nearby, Kody sitting in chairs, disconnected and disinterested, Kody missing surgeries and emergencies because flying somewhere felt inconvenient. Always there, 110%. The math doesn't even work, and neither does the claim. But here's where Leon's Instagram post becomes devastating. Kody's blanket statement about reaching out to every one of his children contains a glaring, unforgivable exception. Leon, the child he hasn't contacted since Garrison died, the child he ignored at the funeral, the child who just told the world their father is a liar. David and Allison couldn't believe the audacity. "And I would be outraged if I were Leon and he was going on TV saying that," David said, his frustration evident, because that's exactly what happened. Kody went on national television, claimed he'd reached out to all his kids, and Leon had to watch him lie about their relationship to millions of viewers. Some children confirmed minimal contact. Mykelti mentioned her dad reaching out periodically, Paydon said the same, and David's response was perfect. All of this reaching out is totally insufficient, but at least it's something. At least those kids can say their father made some kind of effort, however pathetic. Leon can't even say that. Leon heard Kody claim he contacted everyone. Leon heard him play the victim about children not reciprocating his efforts. And Leon knew it was a complete fabrication, not a miscommunication, not a difference of perspective, a flat-out lie told on camera for the world to consume. That's why absolutes matter. When Kody says everyone and always and never, he's not being emphatic, he's being dishonest. He's counting on people not checking the details, not asking the kids, not demanding proof. But Leon brought the receipts. And the receipts say Kody Brown is exactly what they called him, a liar. There's something uniquely cruel about being the forgotten child, not the rebellious one who chose to walk away, not the angry one who slammed doors and burned bridges, the forgotten one, the child whose parents simply decided they weren't worth the effort. Kody Brown has 18 children, 18 individual human beings who share his genetics, who grew up calling him dad, who deserved his time and attention and love. And somehow in his mind, he's managed to convince himself he's reached out to all of them, that he's done his part, that if relationships are broken, it's because they're not reciprocating. But the evidence tells a different story. A story of selective fatherhood, where some kids get breadcrumbs and others get nothing at all. Mykelti confirmed her dad reached out periodically. Paydon said the same thing. These scraps of contact became Kody's proof that he's trying. Look, he texted Mykelti after his Special Forces appearance. Look, he sent a message to Paydon at some point. Surely that counts for something. David's analysis cut through the nonsense immediately. All of this reaching out is totally insufficient, because sending one text every few months isn't parenting. It's not relationship building. It's the bare minimum effort required to claim you tried while actually doing almost nothing. But here's where it gets psychologically devastating. Imagine you're Leon. You hear that your dad texted Mykelti. You know he's reached out to Paydon periodically. You're aware that somewhere in the vast Brown family tree, your father is making some kind of contact with some of his children. And you're getting nothing. Zero. Complete silence. Imagine if you are a kid that is just being ignored totally, David said, his voice heavy with empathy. You hear that he's reaching out to Mykelti or to Paydon or to whoever that he has an okay relationship somewhere else, and you know that your dad's made zero effort and that he ignored you at Garrison's funeral. That's not just neglect. That's being specifically deliberately excluded. It's knowing your father has the capacity to reach out because he's doing it with your siblings. He has their phone numbers. He knows how to send a text. He's just choosing not to send one to you. Janelle understood this dynamic perfectly during her conversation with David and Allison. Even insufficient effort is better than total abandonment. Even a terrible text that makes you angrier is better than being completely forgotten, because at least acknowledgement proves you exist in your parents' mind. Leon doesn't even have that. Leon has a father who goes on television, claims he's reached out to everyone, and leaves them completely out of the equation. A father who couldn't be bothered to approach them at their brother's funeral. A father who's made 18 children and somehow decided one of them simply doesn't matter enough. The selective nature of Kody's fatherhood exposes the lie at the center of all his excuses. He has time, he has the ability, he's just choosing who deserves it. And Leon didn't make the cut. Robin Brown loves to talk about how much she wants relationships with all the kids, how important it is for them to have connections with their father, how she's not standing in the way of anything. She says these things with her hand twirling her hair, her eyes looking anywhere but at the camera, her body language screaming discomfort, and then she can't even make eye contact with Janelle at Coyote Pass. The property sale meeting became a master class in Robin's actual feelings about the Brown family children and their mothers. She showed up late with Cody, likely after meeting with the realtor to get their story straight. She stood there in awkward silence, and when it was over, she turned her back and walked away without a single word. No goodbye, no acknowledgement, just her back as she retreated to safety. Janelle caught it immediately. When you turn around and walk away and put your back to them, and you leave and you don't even just wave, you don't say goodbye, those aren't nice people, she observed. That's not right. That's not just being socially awkward, that's just being wrong. But Robin has an explanation for everything. She reads nuance differently than everyone else. She perceives girl games that apparently no one else can detect. She feels attacked and persecuted when forced to stand in the same space as the women her husband discarded. Cody backs her up completely. Robin hates girl games, he announced, as if this justified her refusal to engage in basic human courtesy. As if Janelle and Mary standing there waiting to sign paperwork constituted some kind of elaborate female manipulation scheme. Here's what really happened. Robin has spent years positioning herself as Cody's only real wife. The one who understands him, the one who doesn't play games or make demands or cause problems. And maintaining that position requires keeping Cody isolated from everyone who remembers what he used to be. Leon represents a specific threat to that dynamic. As Mary's only child, Leon is a living reminder of Cody's first wife. The woman Robin helped push out of the family through years of subtle undermining and not so subtle competition. Every interaction with Leon would force Robin to acknowledge that Mary exists, that Mary mattered, that Mary's child deserves consideration. So Robin does what she's always done. She makes it uncomfortable. She creates tension. She positions herself as the victim of mysterious girl games and nuance that requires Cody's protection, and Cody, desperate to keep his fourth wife happy, goes along with it. The result? Leon gets erased. Not because Cody actively hates them, but because maintaining his relationship with Leon would require confronting Robin's discomfort. It would mean acknowledging Mary's importance. It would disrupt the carefully constructed narrative where Robin is the only wife who matters. Robin claims she wants Cody's kids in their lives. She says it's so important, but her actions at Coyote Pass, her refusal to even fake basic politeness, revealed the truth. She wants them gone. And as long as Cody chooses Robin's comfort over his children's needs, Leon will remain forgotten. Kody Brown sat on that couch and said something so breathtakingly offensive that even people who've watched him for years had to pause and process what just came out of his mouth. I guess we all went through menopause together because there is such thing as male menopause, and my testosterone probably just fell to the floor and I just didn't want to do the hard work anymore. Male menopause. That's his explanation. That's his excuse for why 3 wives left him and his children don't speak to him. His hormones dropped and suddenly he couldn't be bothered to maintain relationships. Let's be crystal clear about what he's actually doing here. He's mocking his ex-wives. He's reducing their legitimate grievances about his neglect, his favoritism, his emotional abuse to nothing more than hormonal fluctuations. Crazy women and their menopause, right? They're irrational, they're emotional. It's their biology making them unreasonable. This isn't new behavior. Christine revealed on camera that Cody once dismissed her concerns by suggesting she must be on her period. A picnic table conversation where he questioned whether her menstrual cycle was making her behave inappropriately. The disrespect was documented for the world to see. But blaming menopause takes it to another level, because menopause became his scapegoat for why the marriages fell apart. Not his favoritism toward Robin, not his abandonment of his children during the pandemic, not his years of emotional neglect. No, it was those crazy menopausal women who couldn't handle their hormones. And then, to really drive home how little accountability he's willing to take, he invented male menopause for himself, a condition he used to explain why he stopped trying, why he gave up on the hard work of maintaining a family. His testosterone fell, so naturally he couldn't be expected to show up for his wives and children anymore. David's reaction was perfect. If I can make a suggestion for Kody going forward, it's to not blame his wife's hormones for what he perceives to be their negative behavior. Allison agreed emphatically. It's such an obviously terrible strategy that even people watching from home could see how insulting and dismissive it was. But here's the truly disturbing part. Kody genuinely believes this explanation works. He thinks invoking hormones absolves him of responsibility. He thinks comparing his laziness to his wife's menopause is clever rather than cruel. This is the man Leon called a joke of a father. And this is why that assessment is so accurate. A real father takes responsibility. A real father examines his own behavior. A real father doesn't blame biology when his relationships crumble because of his choices. Kody chose ego over self-reflection. He chose mockery over accountability. He chose to insult the mothers of his children rather than admit he failed them. And he dressed it all up in pseudo-scientific nonsense about testosterone levels and male menopause. No amount of hormone replacement therapy will fix what's actually broken, and what's broken is his character. The tears started flowing when Kody talked about his father. Real tears, possibly genuine emotion, as he described the relationship that never got fixed, the regrets that followed him long after Brown died. "I wish so badly that I could have fixed things with my own dad while he was alive," Kody said, his voice breaking. The revelation shocked some viewers. Most people knew Kody wasn't his father's favorite, but the depth of the animosity between them hadn't been fully explored on camera. Brown went to his grave with unresolved conflict with his son, and Kody is still carrying that pain, still wishing he'd done something different, still haunted by what could have been. His grandmother Cheryl confirmed it in a conversation Kody recounted. "I told Grandma Cheryl once. I said, Cheryl, what I would do, what I would give to sit down and have a couple beers with my dad. She just looked at me and said, I think he would have really liked that. It's genuinely sad. There's no other word for it." The image of Kody yearning for connection with a father who's gone, wishing for conversations that will never happen, carries real weight. It reveals vulnerability that he rarely shows. But here's where the sadness turns to rage, because Kody knows exactly what it feels like to be the child in this equation. He knows the pain of estrangement. He knows what it's like to want your father's approval and never receive it. He knows the devastating finality of death arriving before reconciliation, and he's doing the exact same thing to his own children. Garrison is gone, dead at his own hand, while estranged from his father. Kody didn't have a good relationship with him at the end. They were at odds, filled with resentment and hurt and unresolved anger, and now Garrison is buried, and Kody has to live with that forever. You'd think that would change everything. You'd think losing a child under those circumstances would shatter whatever pride or stubbornness kept Kody from his other children. You'd think the parallel between his relationship with Win and his relationship with Garrison would be so obvious, so painful that transformation would be inevitable. But Leon hasn't heard from him since the funeral, since they buried Garrison together, since Kody experienced firsthand what it means to lose a child you were fighting with. David and Allison broke this down perfectly. "When I see Kody being rejected by his kids, I see myself," Kody admitted. And yet, despite seeing himself in his children's pain, despite knowing intellectually what needs to happen, Kody is choosing to protect his ego instead. Kody knows what is right, David explained. He knows what he wants as a son, and he knows what he would have wanted from his dad. But Kody's ego gets in the way. The tears mean nothing without changed behavior. The regrets about Win mean nothing if Kody keeps repeating the pattern. And right now, Brown's ghost isn't teaching Kody humility. It's just giving him another excuse to play the victim. After years of documented dysfunction, after 3 divorces, after losing a son, after being publicly called a joke of a father, Kody Brown finally had a revelation. Maybe, just maybe, he should see a therapist. "I'm wondering if you think that getting a good therapist would help me in figuring out, sort of getting around some of my issues," he asked Robin, as if this groundbreaking idea had just occurred to him. David's response was immediate and emphatic. "It's an exceptional idea, and he should have done it years ago. Absolutely. But here's the problem. Kody has been in therapy. Multiple times, we've watched entire episodes centered on therapy sessions. Nancy the therapist became a recurring character on Sister Wives, mediating conflicts and asking probing questions while Kody Kody deflected and blamed and refused to take accountability. The issue isn't that Kody needs therapy, it's that he needs real therapy, professional therapy. Therapy with someone who isn't invested in maintaining polygamous family structures. Therapy with someone who will actually challenge him instead of validating his victim narrative. Not with Nancy, not with a polygamous therapist. Get a legit psychologist, David insisted. Because that's the crucial distinction. Every therapist Kody has seen has been filtered through the lens of his faith. Someone who understands plural marriage. Someone who won't question the fundamental setup that enabled his worst behaviors. A real therapist would immediately identify the narcissistic patterns, the inability to self-reflect, the constant blame shifting, the way Kody positions himself as the perpetual victim even when he's the one causing harm. A real therapist wouldn't let him hide behind religious justifications or claims about exhaustion or excuses about testosterone. But Kody asking Robyn to help him find a therapist reveals another problem. He's outsourcing the work to his wife, the woman who enables his worst impulses, the woman who benefits from his estrangement from his other children, the woman who reads nuance into situations that require her husband to isolate further. Robyn will find him someone safe, someone who won't push too hard, someone who will let Kody talk about his pain without demanding he examine how he created that pain in the first place. And throughout this whole conversation about therapy and healing and making amends, Kody kept using his favorite word, space. I've got to have the tools to be able to engage a relationship, putting my feelings aside and inviting them to step into a space where we can communicate. Space, space, space. It became a drinking game word for David and Allison because Kody says it constantly. A space where they can communicate, a safe space, creating space, it's therapy language he's adopted without understanding what any of it actually means. Real therapy would require Kody to stop talking about creating spaces and start actually showing up. Stop pushing his feelings aside and start examining why those feelings exist. Stop inviting his children into theoretical conversations and start apologizing for concrete harm. But that therapy isn't coming, not really, and Leon knows it. Christine and Janelle have watched Kody rewrite history for decades. They've sat next to him on couches while he lied to cameras. They've listened to him blame everyone else for problems he created. They've endured his revisionist nonsense about being the perfect husband and devoted father who gave 110% every single time. And they're not buying it anymore. Neither is anyone else who's actually paid attention. I think that there's no one that agrees with you, Kody. Not a single person, David said flatly, while watching Kody insist he was always there for his family. I really feel like it's been documented. That's the beautiful thing about reality television. The cameras don't forget. The footage exists forever. And when someone like Kody tries to claim he was always present, always engaged, always giving maximum effort, the editors can simply roll the tape. Cut to Kody sleeping on the couch while his kids play nearby. Cut to Kody refusing to fly to Isabel's surgery. Cut to Kody in his chair, disconnected and disinterested. Cut to Kody explaining why he can't be bothered to see certain children during the pandemic. Cut to Kody missing emergencies because travel feels inconvenient. Yeah, there's not a lot of ambiguity here, Kody. We can check out the record, David continued. The record shows a man who prioritized his comfort over his children's needs. A man who played favorites so blatantly that even viewers watching edited footage could identify the neglected kids versus the chosen ones. Janelle laid out the timeline with devastating clarity. Kody turned 50 and suddenly started talking about the family dragging him down, getting in his way, being too much responsibility, as if children and wives were burdens preventing him from achieving his dreams rather than the family he chose to create. I don't see Caleb or Mitch or anybody saying, "Oh, I'm done, you guys just figure it out because I'm too much responsibility," Janelle observed. She was comparing Kody to her daughter's husbands, men who actually show up, men who don't complain about the exhausting burden of loving their families, men who understand that commitment means staying even when it's hard. Christine has made similar observations about Tony, about how he treats Mike Helty, about what partnership actually looks like when someone genuinely cares. Both women can see clearly now what they tolerated for years, the stark difference between a real partner and whatever Kody was pretending to be. The spiritual release Janelle finally pursued became the ultimate statement. After years of saying maybe she'd look into it someday, she made it official. She wanted that psychic bond with Kody completely severed. She wanted the tie cut at a spiritual level that goes beyond divorce paperwork. "I just want to cut that," Janelle said simply. No drama, no anger, just a clear-eyed assessment that whatever connected her to Kody needed to be permanently destroyed. Christine should do the same, not for herself, but to make Kody's toes curl knowing all three wives rejected him at every possible level: legal, emotional, and spiritual. spiritual. The verdict from the women who knew him best? He's exactly what Leon said, a joke. The question haunting everyone who read Leon's Instagram post is simple and devastating. Will they ever speak to their father again? Right now, the answer looks like no. Not just no, but absolutely not. Not after being ignored since Garrison's death. Not after the funeral snub. Not after watching Cody lie on television about reaching out to all his children. Not after years of feeling invisible while their father paraded around with Robin's kids. Leon made their position crystal clear. He is a liar. He is a joke of a father. That's all. Those 3 words at the end carry so much weight. That's all. As in, there's nothing else to say. No nuance to explore. No room for debate. The conversation is over. But here's what should terrify Cody if he's capable of feeling appropriate fear. Leon isn't the only child on the edge. Reports suggest multiple Brown children have cut contact or maintain only the most minimal connection. The pattern is escalating, not improving. And Garrison's death should have been the wake-up call. The moment that shocked Cody into recognizing that time is finite, that opportunities for reconciliation have expiration dates, that you can't always fix things later because sometimes later never comes. Garrison died estranged from his father. That's a reality Cody has to carry forever. And instead of using that unbearable truth to transform his behavior, to reach out desperately to every other child, to sacrifice his ego on the altar of salvaging what remains, Cody doubled down on his victim narrative. He's still blaming the ex-wives, still making excuses, still using absolutes about how much he's tried while doing virtually nothing, still asking Robin for help finding a therapist instead of actually examining his own behavior. David's analysis was chilling in its accuracy. Cody, despite the tears and the emotion, is choosing to protect himself. That's the core issue. Cody has made a cost-benefit analysis, and maintaining his ego matters more than rebuilding relationships with his children. Reaching out sincerely would require vulnerability. It would mean admitting he was wrong. It would involve criticism and discomfort, and having to hear exactly how much damage he's caused. So Cody chooses the path of least resistance. Blame everyone else? Claim he tried. Wait for his children to come crawling back on his terms. But they're not coming back. Leon isn't coming back. And every day, Cody waits. Every interview where he plays the victim. Every lie he tells on camera about his level of effort. He's cementing the permanent estrangement. The clock is ticking, not just on Leon's potential forgiveness, but on Cody's entire legacy. He'll be remembered as the polygamist who couldn't even maintain relationships in monogamy. The father whose children publicly called him a joke. The man who lost everything because his pride mattered more than his family. Leon's post wasn't just an explosion, it was a verdict. And unless Cody undergoes a fundamental transformation that seems impossible given everything we've seen, that verdict will stand forever. He is a liar. He is a joke of a father. That's all. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.